Heartbreaking loss for Boston College as they fall in double overtime to Michigan State. It was a heartbreaker, but BC, we learned a lot about you in this game.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I am your host, AJ Black of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Network. Thank you all for joining me. I've been covering Boston College for over a decade. If you're looking for news, analysis, and your Boston College Eagles details, you're in the right spot. We are a daily Boston College podcast available free 5 days a week on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. On today's show, we are going to wrap up our conversation on Michigan State. We're going to dive into that big loss on Saturday night. We're going to learn about the good, the bad, and where is the jury still out on these Boston College Eagles. We're going to do all of that on today's show. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. And to do all of this, we're going to bring in Mitchell Wolf. Mitch of Eagle Insider, how's it going?
Well, I think it's been enough time that my adrenaline is finally out of my system because I was wanting to go to sleep last night after that game, but my body was just like, nope, we're super jazzed up after this very exciting football game. And obviously you want BC to win those games, but it's also just exciting to be in those kind of games where you're in a back and forth battle. That's a one-score game the entire way. And it comes down to double overtime, which I couldn't tell you the last time off the top of my head BC when it has been in double overtime. Might have to go back to 2020. There's got to be another one in there.
Missouri?
I think it might have just been single. I think that was just single overtime.
All right.
I think this is definitely the first time they've played under the new overtime rules where you have to go for two if you score a touchdown double, and then after that it would just go to exchanging 2-point conversions. So
I'm glad we didn't get to that point because the exchanging 2-point is just garbage. And at least you can lose with the 2-point conversion fail at the end, but just going 2-point conversion after 2-point conversion.
What they should do is that if you get to that point, because they make the teams like alternate sides, they should just say, okay, on this side is going to be whoever's offense, then this side's going to be the other, and just like, all right, this team's going to go, then this team goes, and then just keep going. Like, just pick a side, and we're just going to go until somebody messes up or doesn't get two in a row.
That'd be a great idea. But anyways, if you did not listen to my post-game recap, we have over almost 2,000 listeners already. Crazy night, even though I was recording at like 1 a.m. And that's not even going to talk about next week. I'm going to be recording at like 3 a.m. We're looking at a 42-40 double overtime loss, a heartbreak for BC. But we learned a lot about this team, I think, in 1 week. Let's start off with the good. I think we're probably going to start with Dylan Lonergan, right?
Yeah, I mean, where else do you want to begin? I mean, I think even if you wanted to kind of start about the bad, I think success bad stuff, like you would just have to start with Dylan Lonergan because he was the story of this game. I think if you talk to anybody who watched this game, going into the game, in the middle of the game, after the game, the first story was obviously after the game was Michigan State pulling it out in double overtime. But everybody else said, but BC's got a quarterback. That kid Lonergan can play. Every podcast recap I listened to, they were like, but BC's got a guy. And that's the story of this game for me, at least, is that, we went into the season with one of our biggest question marks being, what is Dylan Lonergan going to be? Can he be an improvement on what BC has had in the last few years? Can he be the guy, or is he just another like Chase Reddick, Anthony Brown, not really an elevator to the offense? And again, it's only been 2 games, one of which against a pretty bad FCS team, but going on the road for your first start against a Power 5 Big Ten team with a raucous environment, like 80,000 fans at night, not of the night games were great. You had a lot of eyes on you, and a lot of people were exposed to Dylan Lonergan, and he showed up and showed out. And obviously it wasn't a perfect game for him, but I think if you compare it to even his 3 quarters against Fordham, there was a lot of progression, I thought. There were plays that he made outside of structure, which is something that he didn't really do against Fordham. There were plays where he was more aggressive throwing downfield. He was quicker in his progressions. He obviously, on the first drive, took a quote-unquote sack, which was really just a gain of 1 or no gain. So no actual sacks in his record. Still no turnover-worthy plays. I think you could quibble with that with some of the tipped balls and kind of his misses there. But Look, going into the first half, you mentioned like I think only one of his incompletions was a true like miss. Actually, I remember it was like on the first pass of the game where he threw to Jeremiah Franklin shallow on a hitch route, but Franklin got bumped out of the way, so he missed. And I think maybe this was the first half. There's another one where Jaden Skeet ran the wrong route, and they just had a miscommunication. Other than that, besides the drops, he was hitting everybody right where he needed to. So that's obviously a huge takeaway for BC that they might have a really good quarterback who's going to be the phrase they use like the NFL analysis is like, do you have a truck or you have a trailer? And I think BC might have a truck, and that he is going to be pulling the rest of the team along with him, given how good he is.
As we've said before on this podcast, half of the battle in college football is having the quarterback, right?
Yes.
Like having somebody that can elevate your game and get you to that next level. And again, small sample size, but he absolutely looked that part. I mean, this kid looks, and he looks perfect for what Bill O'Brien and Will Long want to do.
Yeah, and Todd Blackledge mentioned that. I've heard a lot of other analysis saying like this is just a really great fit. You know, obviously O'Brien scouted this guy at Alabama, brought him because like this guy can run my system, and that's just continued. And you're seeing Lonergan develop just on a game to game basis, which is huge. And I think you're just going to keep seeing that this season. You know, again, this was kind of a tough environment for him. He wasn't perfect, but he was mostly good. You're looking at a game against Stanford, a pretty bad Stanford team, a bye week, and then another home game against Cal, who's, you know, they've got a good quarterback too, but that's going to be at home. Cal's coming east. That's a big trip. So I think you could have going to October with Lonergan having some real momentum for being, you know, one of the best passers in the conference, if not the country.
That's crazy. It was, you know, and part of it was like listening to them say over and over again, like, oh, this is Brady like, this is Brady like. And it's like, okay, slow down.
Yeah.
It's still impressive, though. What you saw was impressive. What other good things did you see out of BC in this game?
I mean, the kicking game, you know, and we'll talk about the special teams monkey's paw later of exchanging one thing for another because you can never just have all nice things with BC special teams. I did appreciate your mention of having the flinching every time there's a kick because I did it exactly during the game. And my wife, who also went to BC, brought it up how you went to Boston College when you just have a visceral reaction just anytime a ball is kicked in a special teams setting.
And so, I meant that for extra points. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Extra points, I'm going, oh my gosh, they're gonna miss.
yeah, exactly. And to Luca Lombardo's credit, pretty much every kick he's had has been pure this season. Just been fantastic. So that's good.
Yep.
Sticking with the Lonergan related thing, pass blocking. You know, this group didn't really get tested against Fordham. They did allow 2 sacks, but again, some of that was on Lonergan. Some of it was kind of by design with the play they called. But this game, I think Lonergan was pressured 12 times on 48 dropbacks. That's 25%. That's a very workable rate. And he wasn't sacked. Again, there was the one on the first drive where he tried to scramble and just couldn't and got, 0 to 1 yards. But other than that, he wasn't really getting hit. He got outside the pocket, drew a roughing the passer penalty. And again, like this is something that Lonergan's developing is there was a play, and I think Blackledge was mentioning it, where it was like a play action pass, and I think it was out of the pistol. So he kind of turns back the defense, drops back, and is at the back of the pocket. And then as the pocket kind of not collapses, but kind of moves towards him, he steps up through the pressure to deliver a strike to, I think it was Jaden Skeet coming from the backside dig. And it was a little high, but Skeet went up and got it. It was beautiful. So pass protection has been really good. We'll talk more about the run game later because that is a question mark for the team, but pass pro has been great so far. Even the play where BC is early in the game where they're backed up on their own 1 and it's 1st and 10, then they got to get out of it. And they call a pass play, which is pretty risky, but the pass protection holds up well, no holding calls, and Lonergan delivers a strike to Reed Harris. Maybe a bit underthrown because Harris had to kind of dive for it, but still catchable, and Harris made a tough catch there.
So I want to be a little reckless here. Back to Dylan Lonergan. Let's be reckless. This is a podcast. We do this here, right? I have seen Dylan Lonergan consistently in the first 2 games making passes that I have not seen since Matt Ryan at Boston College. It's 2 games, I know, but maybe a little bit with Phil Dracovic, maybe a little with Jake, but like
that's what I was going to say is that I was having this conversation on Twitter with somebody last night is that I think you'd have to really go looking for it, but the number of passes that are in rhythm with Lonergan, because you think about Jurkovic and it was a lot of like scramble out, fling it across the field. It's like, holy crap.
Chucking off amazing. 4 guys off of
Zay Flowers is down there somewhere. Yep. This is within the structure of the offense that he is delivering these seeds, like hitting Skeet on the backside dig, getting to in the first game, like getting to Bond on some of those intermediate crossers, the touchdown to Harris, which was a perfect ball in the back of the end zone, like get it up high so your really tall receiver can get it. he had a few that receivers dropped, like the wheel route to Jeremiah Franklin early in the game. That could have been a big gain. That was a miss. So yeah, I mean, a lot of the positives are Lonergan here. The receivers deserve a good amount of credit to, again, some drops, and Lonergan was to blame for some of them as well. But receivers had a mostly good night, picking up big yards after the catch, making big plays.
So this podcast is not all maroon and gold glasses. In a moment, Mitch and I are going to look at the bad parts of this game. What are we worried about? We'll get into all of that in just a moment. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for a project? Supply House has it next day delivery. You can't beat that. Talk about a game changer. The Part Finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Join the free TradeMaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stand, there's nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel more like a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping up at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I love them because they make everything simple on their app. I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying. I used that for BC tickets. It was a game changer for my family. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I've bought tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go download Game Time today. This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black, and I want to tell you guys, we have the Eagles Nest subtext program, and if you were part of it before, reach out to me. I had some issues with it for a couple months. It's back. I am sending out text messages constantly. If you want to join, details are in the notes. I'm going to give out 3 months free if you want to check it out. You can text directly to me about anything Boston College that you want, so I hope you check that out soon. And for all our everydayers, you've been listening to us as we have talked about BC and Michigan State. And now let's get into the negatives, because losing 42-40, you left with a bad taste in your mouth, at least a little bit. Mitch, what left you feeling a little bit hollow?
Yeah, our friend Parker Fleming posted at Stats of War on Twitter, posted his net success graphic, which it's an analytics measure, basically like how much did you kind of deserve to win, like how much did you succeed over the team that you beat or didn't beat. And BC had the worst net success rate of any team. Well, I guess the worst net success rate for a team that won, or they should have won because their net success rate was higher than Michigan State's by the worst amount. So that was the problem. I'm going to go from basically granular to more universal issues here. So the first one is that Bill O'Brien made a mistake not going for 2 after the first touchdown in overtime. I have been trying to find a specific stat measure to back up this theory, but essentially, especially in this game, if you just think about how BC is performing at the moment that happened, the offense is moving the ball pretty well, and the defense is not doing anything. So you should go for it after the first touchdown. Try to win it there. Don't make your offense try again and have to convert 2 2-point conversions, and then make your defense have to make the stop. So if you lose it on the first one, it is what it is. It's fine. Like you went out on your shield essentially, but I think that was a mistake. And I think that's a nuance of the college football rules. Maybe Bill O'Brien just doesn't know yet, but I think that was a mistake. Next one would be penalties. And I guess should apologize / I was wrong for assuming that this ref crew would be a Big Ten crew, because it was an ACC crew and naturally they just did a pretty bad job. Now, I think Michigan State fans could have a gripe about the number of not called false starts in BC's offensive line. I'm not sure exactly why a lot of those weren't called, but you do kind of see this in the NFL as well, where the timing can be off. And I think it might just be because when you're looking at the TV camera and you're so much further away, you can see it happen. But on the field, it might be a little more harder to discern. So that's kind of what I think, because I see it a lot and I do have questions about it, but I'm not sure exactly how to resolve that.
Chiefs do it.
Otherwise,
Chiefs do it all the time.
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So the other problem would be my biggest issue was the play where Chuck Nato got his helmet ripped off and then was penalized for continuing to participate in the play. Now, I think regardless of when you get your helmet ripped off or not, or if you get it ripped off or it comes off, whatever, once it is off, hit the deck, go down. Don't like, you shouldn't participate, but like you're in the heat of battle. I get it, but they showed the replay and it was just clear as day that he got his helmet pushed off, and that was just ridiculous because that allowed Michigan State to move in further into the red zone, and I think they eventually scored a touchdown on that drive. You also saw a lot of questionable penalties throughout the game. I think a few went BC's way, so I can't be too mad at the refs, but that one just really stuck in my craw about how you just completely missed the entire point of the penalty on that play. Next, kick coverage. It's absolutely abysmal. I mean, I was after the first game, Fordham opens the game with that really big kick return. I'm like, it's first play of the game, first kickoff return of the season. It's, BC was a little juiced. Maybe it's a fluke. It wasn't. And that's clearly a serious problem for this team. And I have not gotten the special teams film yet. I have requested it, so I'm going to watch it. But I will admit, I don't know as much about special teams as the other sides of the ball. So I'll try to figure it out. I think one play, they had two guys kind of run into each other when they were trying to make a tackle. So some of it is just bad luck when guys are, pursuing. But it's just happened too many times in this game for it to not be a problem that needs resolving. And that brings us to the last issue, is tackling. It was a bad tackling effort from BC. And I will say this, it was not as big of a problem throughout the whole game as people think. Earlier in the game, it was okay. Like, yes, Amari Jackson got backpacked by Nick Marsh. Nick Marsh outweighs him by 30 pounds. And honestly, if you rewatch that play, Carter Davis kind of came in hot from deep and tried to lay a big hit instead of wrapping up Marsh's legs. That's a mistake. And I think we'll talk more about the secondary later. But that was a mistake. And then in the fourth quarter, you just saw all these penalties rack up. I think you said the PFF had BC charted with 15 missed tackles. I think True Media has that at 16. And in True Media, 7 of the 16 are from Aiden Childs alone. And I think we do need to just recognize, because as we were talking about on Twitter, BC had the same number of missed tackles last year against MSU and the same missed tackle rate. So, and a lot of those, again, were Aiden Childs. So maybe we just need to admit that Aiden Childs is a really, really, really good athlete who's big, strong, can make cuts on a dime. I mean, there was one play where he crossed over Owen McGowan like he's Russell Westbrook on a fast break. Like and I think people just kind of ignore this. They're like, oh, like BC is automatically better than a lot of these teams, which they're not. It's BC. Why do we assume that? And Childs is just a freak of a player. And to his credit, we went into this game saying, okay, like BC can get to him. They can force him to make mistakes, especially if it's a high leverage situation. That's what I said. And to his credit, he did not. He did not make a single killer mistake for this team. No interceptions, took a few sacks towards the end, but your tie game trying to make a play, it's not the worst thing that can happen. But he never really killed his team. I don't think there were many balls in harm's way that were his fault. So, he had a really good game. And again, Nick Marsh, who did not play against BC last year, and it kind of makes you wonder, if he had, would the outcome have been different in another game that was extremely close? He's just a really talented player. Like, again, Jeremiah Smith is in that conference and he's an alien. Nick Marsh is closer to him than most of the other receivers on Michigan State's team. So that, again, it's bad, but like they have really good players. And I think, BC fans like kind of need to respect that this team actually does have some talent. So it makes sense that they're going to make some plays. Otherwise, still, tackling is an issue. They let both of the running backs get free too much. Receivers making plays in space. But again, the biggest issue is getting Childs down, which is something they just really struggle with, and something they struggled with against last year. So again, last year, we talked about this. The issues got fixed in the following weeks. After a bad tackling performance against Michigan State, bad tackling against Virginia Tech, the next weeks they were better. So I think you're going to see BC improve in that margin, or in that category, and hopefully this is just a one-off. But it does need to get corrected.
Yeah, you'll probably see against a team like Stanford that you'd hope that your tackling would be much better.
Yeah.
And word out there right now is that BC is a 9-point favorite heading into that Stanford game. But I want to go back to Childs because I think it's a good point. I don't think a lot of fans. I think a lot of BC fans saw him last year when he had 3 interceptions. He looked, like at times like the lights got a little bright for him. But this year it was a very different Aiden Childs. Like this is he those passes that he made last year, and they showed some examples of it on the broadcast where he was trying to force things in. He didn't force in anything in this game. He made some really good decisions, and BC just couldn't capitalize on anything. So I thought he had an excellent game. And sometimes I think as a fan base, you go directly to our players stink, they're bad, blah blah blah. Sometimes you got to tip your cap because sometimes you just get beat, and I think that goes with Nick Marsh too. Like, dude's good.
Yeah.
what are you gonna do?
Yeah, him backpacking Amari Jackson, him getting open on that deep on that. And again, like this, we'll talk about, like, a lot of those plays weren't like necessarily busted coverages. This is just like Michigan State, again, this is part of their offense. They run this heavy play action where you've watched them run the ball successfully like 5 plays in a row. And then you're like, okay, it's play action, but it's not like Madden where you like know that, or the camera changes so it's a pass game. It's like you see the run action and you're a safety, you're like frozen, you're like, okay, like where's the ball? And by the time you realize it is a pass, Nick Marsh is already 5 yards behind you. So it's like it's the other team is, well, I guess they are kind of getting paid now, but they are scholarship athletes too. It's another Power 5 team. It's a Big Ten team who had a rough time last year, but if you look at their schedule, they had a murderer's row of schedule, and they're probably going to be better than they were last year. And again, they were very much on par with BC last year, and it makes sense they were on par with them again this year.
In a moment, Mitch and I are going to look at some topics about this game where the jury is still out. Where are we thinking about, a few specific things, especially the secondary? We'll get into all of that in just a moment. Quick question for all of you college football fans out there. If you could go back in time and sit front row at your school's biggest rivalry game, what hat would you be wearing? Yes, I said hat. For me, it would be the game. This one right here. These aren't just hats. They're the same vintage styles fans wore back in the 80s and 90s. And guess what? They still go for the same price they did back then. You can get this hat when you use code LOCKEDON, and you'll get that for $16.99 for a vintage hat. Head to the gamecaps.com, that's gamecaps.com, and grab your Boston College's classic bar retro circle design. I've got one in my background too. I don't know if you can see the maroon one back there, but I got 2 of them. You can grab your team's classic bar or retro circle design and use code LOCKEDON for an exclusive discount, because legends wear the game. The Charitable Irish Society has been part of Boston's history since 1737, making it the oldest Irish society in the Americas. With deep ties to Boston College, its leaders and members continue a proud service of tradition. Today, the society is still living its mission, raising thousands of dollars each year to help immigrants in need, Irish and non-Irish alike. Last year, their support helped a family from Northern Ireland who faced a medical crisis and couldn't cover rent and bills. You can be part of that impact. Membership is just $75 a year, and it goes directly to helping families when they need it most. And mark your calendar. The annual Silver Key Dinner is coming up October 29th at the UMass Club, honoring Archbishop Henning. Grab your tickets today for the annual Silver Key Dinner and join the Charitable Irish Society today at www.charitableirishsociety.org. Again, that's www.charitableirishsociety.org. Locked On Boston College, AJ Black here, and for all our first listeners, if you have made Locked On Boston College your first listen every day, you know we are a daily Boston College podcast. We're been giving you all the details of everything going on, and the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we're going to get into where things still stand. Where's the jury still out after game number 2, Mitch?
I think we might need to eat some crow about the secondary. This was the first time they really tested this year, and for the most part, they came up short. And I think they had some moments here and there. I thought it was a tough game for Sire Torrance, and not all of it was his fault. A lot of it, he had some of those underthrown balls where there was nothing he could really do. There was one back shoulder fade that it's just a great throw. There was one where it led to a pass interference because he couldn't get his body turned around. One where Nick Marsh pushed off on him for a touchdown, but whatever. They're never going to call OPI on anything. So rough day for him. Then they rotated Max Tucker in and rotated him over to Nick Marsh, and he did a pretty good job, to his credit. Amari Jackson had a bit of a rough start and left the game, so difficult day for him. But hopefully he's still healthy and can come back in the following weeks, because I do think he's still a solid starter. But you look at the safeties, and this was a really rough game for them. You saw all three of our boys, just bouncing off Aiden Childs, taking bad angles, missing tackles, especially late in the fourth quarter, and that was a huge problem. One thing that I also noticed was that on a lot of plays, especially in run defense, you had two guys going to the same gap and not like dividing the responsibility. Like you get the outside gap, I'll get the inside one. They would both go to the same one, and the running back would just go the other way. So that's when we talked about for BC to win this game, they had to maintain gap integrity and sound run defense, which they did not do. And that's what allowed Michigan State to get a lot of this cutbacks on outside zone. So that was a big problem. And again, like Childs had a lot of time to throw. He was able to hit some really nice throws. And I mean, also the fact that there were like two catches, the one early to the backup fullback who won, or no, he like high point fingertip caught it. And then later on, there was the slot receiver on Owen McGowan who did the same thing on the sidelines, just like, BC's dropping wild open wheel routes, and these guys are making the catch of their lifetime. So it's just like sometimes it's just not your day, and that was frustrating. But moving on to the pass rush, I still think the secondary is good. We're gonna come back, stay with secondary. I still think they're good. I think this was a bad game for them, no question. I think you're going to see them bounce back, and they're going to be a solid group. But maybe we did overestimate them a good bit. But moving on to the pass rush, which you talked about, again, like it's a tough game to evaluate because if you look at the numbers, honestly, BC had a really good day in terms of pressure. I think they pressured Childs on like 40% of his dropbacks. They got 4 sacks, which was a pretty high rate given the number of dropbacks that Childs took. So, compared to last week when the pressure rate was 41.7%, which was very good. Last week it was like 25. And again, I would throw a lot of those passes out because the ball was out in less than 2 seconds against Fordham. And when you take those out, it's up by 40% again. So you're seeing a consistent pass rush in terms of the pressure rate. But if you think about it and you think about these plays, a lot of them are very extended dropbacks with play action and the quarterback is hanging in the pocket for a very long time. So the pressure is still taking a long time to get there. And then Childs was still delivering some awesome throws. So that is frustrating. BC, again, was very blitz heavy in this game. Blitzed on 52.8% of dropbacks, which is absolutely insane. But when you're not getting pressure with 4, you have to bring more guys. And that's something that we said BC would probably have to do this year. And some of them got home. You think about that blitz where Owen McGowan was basically unblocked. They schemed that up well. They had one with Omar Thornton, which went well. They had one with KP Price, which didn't, where he bounced right off Childs, and then he made a few guys miss for a huge gain. So again, this comes back to tackling being a major issue, but I think you saw flash, like again, Quintavious Hutchins had a very good day in terms of his numbers, had some mistakes as well. And you're still like hoping somebody can really show up. We talked a lot about Favor Bate, who has made a few plays here and there, but he's still not like making a huge impact as a pass rusher. And neither is really anybody else. So that's a big problem for BC going forward. And this was again against a pretty questionable offensive line. So they should have been able to do better. Maybe you could argue that they weren't in a lot of true pass rush situations because it was a close game throughout. Michigan State was running the ball really well, so you could never really pin your ears back and get after them until the end when they did. So they're increasing flashes. And again, I don't think Stanford's going to tell us a lot because of how bad they are. But I think the truth is somewhere, again, with most things, the truth is somewhere in the middle here, of this being a not great, but probably a serviceable pass rush.
What I thought was interesting was, who did we mention did not play against Fordham? It was Chuck Nato and Anya Nuisi, and both of them were out there yesterday. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it was injuries. I don't know what was going on, but they were both out there. Cam Martinez was out there. We didn't see him the week before.
Yeah, and you saw Jason Hewlett start the game, but he only played 10 snaps, so he was basically out after the first drive. So I don't know if that was an injury, or I don't think I saw him make like a huge mistake, so I don't really get that.
He was on special teams later. I thought he was the one that missed.
See,
he whiffed on the tackle on, I think it was the 60-yard return.
I think I remember. I don't know. Maybe that was it. Maybe he got hurt. I don't know. But that was weird because, the defensive scheme is a little confusing because when they would drop the linebackers into coverage, they would usually have Davian Crouch drop to cover the running back and then Owen McGowan stay in to spy the quarterback, which I feel like that might have been a mistake. The running backs are good, but I think you probably want your better athlete, which is Davian Crouch, on Aiden Childs, or just have Hewlett out there more, which I think they should have done. And that was a mistake. Last thing that was still questionable is the running game. Again, I think there were good moments. I think their worst moments were kind of one-off things where you had the reverse to Reed Harris, which got blown up. You had the backwards pass to Lewis Bond. You had some weird plays where you tried to run like an outside run with Jordan McDonald, which doesn't really make a lot of sense given his skill set. But you had some good moments. You had Turbo Richard finally getting outside into the second level, still churning for yards. Like he's still a much tougher runner than you would think for a guy his size, and obviously being extremely effective as a receiver. So that was a good bonus as well. So Turbo played well. I think you had a few good runs from McDonald. So, and a big reason why is because the play calling was more creative. You saw more 11 personnel, guys in motion, RPOs, all this kind of stuff that actually creates good stuff for runs. There was, I am a little frustrated / concerned about their ability to run with two tight ends or multi-tight end sets, but they did have this great play where they had the tight end bunch, where they had all three tight ends in a bunch formation, and they pulled two of them in a guard to lead the way for McDonald on a counter. That was beautiful. Something very that Western Michigan did something very similar the week before. So I bet BC saw that and took it right from them. So there are flashes there, but this unit still just has to play better. They have, and this game was more of them getting physically beaten by Michigan State than making mental mistakes against Fordham. So there were still some mental mistakes, which again, it's a road game. It's going to happen. Penalties were a problem with this group with the false starts, but now you're having physical problems. And that's something that it's really tough to fix mid-season. So that's got to get better. You've got to finish your block stronger. You've got to be more nasty about holding on to your man and not letting him go so easily. That was a problem. My one fix for this is I'm not really sure if Dwayne Alec is the best answer at center. You're seeing a few snaps go wide left, wide right on Lonergan. You saw the one where it got directly snapped to Lewis Bond on a sweep, and I don't think that was intentional. I think that was a mistake that could have gone really bad. Yeah, because the camera cut like a close up of Bond walking back the huddle. And he went, ooh, like I was like, yeah, they did, because I think that might have been one where they were supposed to snap it to Lonergan. He would kind of like touch pass it back to Bond. I think that might, or something like that. But that was kind of funny. But he also had two of the false starts, both of which I think came when Lonergan was coming to the line to check the protection. I think maybe one of them, it should have been Kevin Klein. So maybe it's not actually his fault, but he's still struggling in run defense and he has had issues in pass protection. So I kind of want to see what one of the younger guys can do, Michael Krauts or somebody, because I think there's a lot of issues in the interior run game. And I think it kind of starts with him. So I don't like calling people's jobs, but I think, and especially early in the season, like I'm very patient and pragmatic when it comes to this kind of stuff. I would say, I think they've got to make a change there because it is a problem that is, you might be able to make it out of September with it being okay, but once you get into the real part of the season, that's going to be an issue.
And it's interesting because that's he was the one position too that O'Brien would not, like, he was kind of waffling between him and Krauts when they had that, the podcast, and he was saying like, oh, it could be Krauts, it could be Alec. And I think Alec he was sick or something like that, and he missed part of practice. But I tell you, Michael Krauts was someone that I noticed at practice and would be fine. I'm like you. I would be interested to see how he does. Stanford might be a good game to try it to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, from what I remember reviewing their team, they do not have a very strong defensive line. So this, again, it's tough because it's a road start. But I think that's a change that should be. Maybe you can wait until after the bye week when you're coming back home. You've got an extra week to rep stuff. But yeah, that was something that I noticed. I was like, after 2 games where he has struggled in a lot of facets of the game, I think that might be a change they have to make.
All right, let's wrap things up. Mitch, where can people find you?
You can find me at Mitch T. Wolf, WOLFE on Twitter. We'll have the film reviews out this week. We might even have a bonus little special teams one once I get that film. Then we'll be on to Stanford. And I don't like to say this again, but if this does not go the way it should with BC, then we are in a real dire position with this program. This is basically a must win. It's can't lose, whatever you want to call it. This is a big game. They have to win this game and win it convincingly for there to be any real hope about this season going well.
Yep. And you can follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. I have the PFF grades up right now, snap counts. I have my instant takeaways. I have a lot of stuff going on this week, and we have Mike Sidley putting out grades. We have, Mia Dragoni, who's our new writer. She'll be up at practice this week to talk to Bill. We'll have more of all that up on the site, so check that out. Follow us on YouTube as well. If you are on YouTube, I don't know if it's Michigan State fans or whatever, maybe BC fans are finding it, but I've had a ton of new subscribers on our YouTube channel. So thank you all for subscribing. It's helping our site, get into that YouTube algorithm, and I love that. So thank you all for checking us out, and we'll see you all again on Monday. Monday. On Tuesday. This is a Monday episode. What am I talking about? For another episode of Locked On Boston College. Your team every day.